Welcome, Joey, to the Young Athletic. Thanks for being here. How you doing today?
Fantastic. Living the dream.
Yeah, living the dream, living the Liverpool dream.
More like a nightmare sometimes, but Liverpool's doing well lately, so
Yeah,
that's not bad.
What are they at right now? 1-1, 2-1.
No, they've won all the games. They've tied one, and then they tied Chelsea, but Chelsea's kind of
Chelsea.
a bogey team.
Poor Chelsea.
Chelsea can't win a game to save their lives.
Do you think Pochettino's going to be able to turn them around?
I think they should have just bought Brighton or Brentford and saved a couple of billion. I mean, the amount of money they've spent. It's like playing fantasy league and your team's in last place, but you had the most money.
Yeah, it is almost fantasy league at this point with all the money coming in.
Same with United, but I don't think United have the same problems. I think that's internal as well as manager, as well as players. But
Yeah.
I just don't get, like, you watch the Premier League and you see guys, they're getting paid millions, and you can see they're working hard. They're improving. Like, you can see a style of play, defensively attacking, whereas United, it's the biggest roller coaster. And obviously I support Liverpool, so I'm not really a fan of Man United, but I feel embarrassed for them. It's that bad.
Yeah.
But
You think it's, the coach is too much to overcome with the management, or is it the coach?
I think you bring in a new personality who wants to kind of be dominant, and he's sitting people out for reasons. He's doing this, he's doing that. I don't think the players want to play for him. I mean, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
And then I think you got a couple of players on that team, to me, that you can see they whine and complain. One of them's their captain. I mean, that's... Bruno Fernandes does some good stuff, but to me, he just whines and complains a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that's the Man United dilemma.
Poor Man United. Let's talk locally. How are we doing in the States? Stateside. Do you watch any of the U.S. games?
I do. I think you open a can of worms because, the go-to is, the pay-to-play model doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
If you pay a lot of money for something, normally you get really good.
Yeah.
The problem in this country is the pay-to-play model and your service is not really the level you're paying for.
So our services aren't matching the pay, is what you're saying?
No. Well, comparably to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I think we have to take a step back and we have to say, hey, our level of youth coaching, our level of facilities, the ability to have kids 4 days a week from younger ages, guaranteed kids coming in. Even stupid stuff like heart rate monitors and GPS, which isn't stupid, but, video. The level of professionalism in every other country is a different wave higher than we grasp. And then over here, it's I think it's catching up on the women's side, you'll see, which we already did see. I think, I don't like to say it, but I can't see the U.S. women winning another World Cup.
Right.
And it's not that they're bad. It's just that how do you compare Arsenal's women's academy, Barcelona's women's academy to our clubs? There is no comparison. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're training at Barcelona, or you're training at a local park with your club team that might play ECNL, which is a good league.
Yeah.
It's just a case of you can't compare that.
It's an interesting model to compare because our women's team is obviously good, but the rest of the world is catching up to our women's team. And then internationally, our men's team isn't catching up to the rest of the world, competitively.
I think it's going to be the same.
Yeah, you think we will get there?
No.
Oh, no.
The women are going to become like the men.
We're getting worse.
I don't want to say worse. The women's going to become like the men, and for women or younger girls, they're going to need to leave the country, potentially. Now, there are obviously, on the female side, the pro clubs, and they do a good job.
Yeah.
I just think it's the same thing. You go to a country that's... Let's just say Spain or England. That's like the size of California. And they're pumping out some legit players. I mean, look at the size of the United States. I just think for us, we have to adjust a lot of things. We have to adjust a lot of things. We have to be humble as coaches, and we have to understand that, we might not do it the best here, and we have to go to other countries or go to people that produce elite players and see what they do. But then we have to tweak it to America.
What about the issue of like just not having enough kids out in the fields? Have you come across that? Like this morning I was on Instagram and I saw an ad. I don't know if you saw this, but like the NFL is broadcasting a game on Disney Plus.
Right.
But they're animating it so it's more appropriate for
For
kids so they can get kids on the fields,
I
Do
think
you think
it's
we're
cool.
losing that battle?
I think it's cool, but I think it's a society thing. I think it's easier for parents to give a kid an iPad and headphones and just be like, she or he's not screaming, whining, complaining, or asking for something. Let them sit in the room or let them watch some kid open an egg on YouTube. And, I'm cool. Whereas...
Yeah.
That takes very little effort. And I'm not saying this about everybody, but I do think it's happening more often. Cell phones. When you were younger, your parents would be like, you're going to your friends. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You're going out.
Get outside.
It's also a tough one, too, because I think social media has changed the way people think of everything. We're hypersensitive to, extreme things happening to kids because now... you'll see it instantly. You see those, and I think that adds a bit to it. But I also think too, parents can do it. To me, everybody's got excuses, and I get it's annoying. Do you know what I mean? You can pay for a private lesson. Why not call up 6 of the kids on the team and you each pitch in and buy pugs and say at once a week we play 3v3 at this park? Mm-hmm. There's nothing stopping you to do that.
Well, the commitment to the game, yeah. I don't think they have that kind of investment.
I get it, but to me, it's not just the game. It's mental health. It's social interaction. It doesn't matter whether it's soccer, it's football, it's whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many small little issues with, not to generalize, but a lot of kids interacting. You know what I mean? They don't look you in the face. They're looking every other way. Mm-hmm. And I think at some point, when you're in a sport and you have to work together as a team for a common goal or just get along with everybody, it changes. I think it helps mold kids and even adults into better people. Mm-hmm. I used to guest speak when my sister was a professor at Cal State Channel Islands and did like communications and stuff like that type of classes. And it was interesting because I would, ask each person in the class a little bit something about them, maybe 2-3 minutes, but I could tell you who played a team sport and who didn't. Like that. And because it just makes a big difference. There's so many little nuances to it, and I really don't think parents understand that kids' behavior and attitude, and even though sometimes that's going to affect the kids going at the top level. And they don't understand that, I obviously coached at a Division I college. You're around those kids 6-7 days a week.
Yeah.
You're at airports. Do you think you want someone who's a pain in an airport with you? You don't. And then at the pro levels, I've got some friends and had the opportunity to go to a lot of places. That's the first thing they ask. So I think
what's the first thing they ask? How they travel?
What's their attitude like? How do they interact with their teammates? And even when people go to watch players play, they just see how they communicate with the teammates. They look at that. And I think if you look in the Premier League in Spain, whatever, those top players, they don't have chips on the shoulders. They don't shrug the shoulders or what are you doing or whine and complain. And I think those are big things that help. But to go back to your point, because as you know, I talk a lot, I think, to me, it's very easy to find excuses on everything. Yeah. And I think we do it. Do you know what I mean? Coaches do it by not watching an extra session or checking out a YouTube video and mixing up the sessions or taking a license. I think parents do it by saying, hey, you know what? You're a pretty good soccer player. You're going to go in the backyard for 20 minutes once a week, every week. And when you add that up in 3 years, it's
makes
helped.
a difference, yeah.
Instead of his $60 to $100, whatever you pay for someone to do the same thing wrong 100 times, and they say great shot when you kick it down the middle and your touch is too far and the technique sucks. It's like, hey, give them that. To me, it's comparison to homework, school. If kids go to school and did no homework, they would struggle on the test.
Yeah.
Well, kids going to school during the day is like my practice. The homework is the extra.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. When I was younger, I used to play. We used to meet up at Buena, and, you know, everybody knew. Back then, you'd ride your bike, which people don't do, and, you know, whatever. But we'd find a way to do it, you know. And I think there's a way to do it, but I think it's motivation. It's what do you want for your child? And it's commitment.
Yeah. Let's switch to your playing experience since you brought it up. How was that growing up, and what motivated you to play soccer versus, you know, any other sport?
Well, my dad was a big Liverpool fan, and he played when he was younger. And then I came to America, and I was on an ASO team, and, you know, my dad came to practice, and the coach had us playing basketball, and was kind of like, what's going on here? So he talked to him, and the guy was like,
Wait, you were at soccer practice playing basketball?
Yeah.
As like a warm-up or as a...
No, that's what we were doing.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking a long time ago.
Yeah.
And the guy who was the coach was a really nice friend and became like a family friend for quite a while, you know. So my dad spoke to him. He's like, you got an accent. You can coach. You can help me.
Heard that.
So that kind of got me into it. And then, you know, I was on one of the first kind of club teams in Ventura. Unfortunately, it was called the Ventura Arsenal. And I was 10, and I think we were U14, and then we had a team in our own age group and progressed and went to Buena, and, you know, my high school experience wasn't the best. I think as an adult, I can look back and have learned a lot from that. And the unfortunate thing is, what I learned a lot is how I don't want to treat players, how I don't want to speak to players, and I don't want to coach and people to play for me based on fear. And when I say fear, it's a different level of fear. It's not like, I mean, if some of that stuff happens nowadays, coaches have problems.
The police would be called.
It's
get reported.
It's not good. You know, but I think, it's like I say, I think you can learn from every experience. But when you're younger, it's hard. I think, I don't think...
Yeah, you don't know how to process that.
Well, and I don't think, even club, but predominantly high school coaches, I don't think they understand how that affects the kid. You know, just as simple as you go into school and there might be a pep rally because the soccer team has a game or whatever. And in your mind, you're thinking, do I start today? Do I not? Am I going to get picked on today? Am I not? Nothing to do with whether you're good enough. That doesn't happen. And you're thinking about this, and then you go and you've got classmates and people watching, and you're sitting on the bench. And people know you're good enough to play. Because the one thing that players know and kids know is who the better players are. Unfortunately, coaches don't realize that, and they create problems for themselves, and they lose respect. But yeah, my high school experience was not good.
What about college? Playing in college?
I didn't play in college. I actually was field goal kicker at Ventura College.
Oh yeah, how's that?
That was pretty. It was a cool experience.
Yeah.
I was never really a fan of American football. I'd watch it here and there, but when you play and you're on the sidelines, even though it was just city college, when you're that close to it, the level of appreciation of what these guys put themselves through is it's such an eye opener. It was crazy, and then the ironic thing was when I took my B license, one of the coaches teaching it was a college coach, and he offered me a scholarship to play for his college.
As a kicker?
No, soccer.
As a soccer player.
But I was already coaching, I was already making money, and it's like, do I want to go backwards and
I see.
And do that? But I enjoyed playing, but you know, when I played, I wouldn't say I had a temper, but if you kicked me, I would kick you back. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was no in between.
So it was club, high school, which was not a great experience, and then
I had a little, trials in England, and, one of the times I tore my lower stomach muscles, but playing-wise, I'm okay. I could do all the silly tricks, balance the ball on my head, my neck, all that stupid stuff when I was like 13-ish, and juggling and all the stuff that's circus tricks. And then, I'd like to think I could hit a ball pretty good, free kicks and stuff like that. But it was cool when I was at the college at LMU because you're on this beautiful field, you're wearing your cleats, the balls are like, $100 balls, and you're warming up the keeper, and it's just a beautiful place to be in an environment. But I stopped playing, I got a lot of injuries. I mean, I just got bad luck. My life is bad luck, so.
Don't say that.
It's true. I am the black cloud.
The black cloud. Let's talk about your coaching at college, LMU and VC, right?
Yeah, it's cool. It was cool. I've had some pretty cool opportunities. VC was a good kind of starter. I was an assistant coach to my dad, and everybody's going to be like, oh, he got it because of his dad, which people say all the time, which nowadays kind of makes me laugh. But I was his assistant there for about 10 years. That was pretty cool. It's a different... I think it changes you as a coach, when you have a larger number of players to work with, and you have to work on bigger concepts. And then when I was at LMU, that was a really cool experience of, you've got this beautiful field, you've got all the equipment, the kids have fitness in, off season. During the season they do, but it's not really weights. But I mean, you've got almost as close to a pro environment as your heart rate monitors.
Was that boys or girls you were with?
The women's side, yeah. And got to do some of the training sessions quite often, especially the last year I was there, and video analysis. And it was cool because, like I say, when you've got 26 players and you're trying to balance the load because they might have played 180 minutes over 2 or 3 days, and now you got to tweak your session, and then you got to watch the video, and you're playing at the time USC, who knocked the ball around pretty well, and maybe they play a 3-5-2, so your sessions that week are to attack against that and defend against that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool. It was a challenge. But then it was really cool because I brought a lot of that back down and thought, these kids don't know some of these things at this age. How can you implement basics of these at a younger age, which will help them positionally as a team? How do you press as a team? Or do you have a low block, a middle block? You know what I mean? Like, can you get these bigger concepts? It just kind of surprised me that, 18, 19, 20-year-old players that parents have paid, let's say it's $2,000 for 10 years.
Yeah.
$20,000, and your kids don't know this.
Don't know what a low block is. So
that experience was super cool. And then the travel was cool, and, just everything about it. The campus was beautiful. And when you're in that environment, it's so different than Club 2, because whether players play or don't play, they are working hard in practice. They might not play as a freshman 1 minute, but they want to play as a sophomore, or they want to play as a junior. So at your practices, it's good. You don't have to put any demands on, hey guys, we're not working hard enough.
We're not engaged. Yeah. With the little kids, it's tough.
Little kids. Goes back to what I said. I think, I don't like to say mean when I said it, but parents, just say to your kids, I'm going to ask you once, and if you don't do it, you can give me 5 push-ups.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, come up with something, because the amount of times you have to say to someone 5 times, it's crazy. But anyway, like I say, college stuff was cool. But I think every kind of piece of my journey, I've pulled back into kind of youth coaching, every age group, and figuring out where a group are at tactically, and then what are they ready for as a full team, or as backs, as mids, as forwards. Because sometimes you got to start individually, and then, okay, you back 4, when the ball goes there, you're going to tuck. You got to start with that, and then you kind of build off of it, which is kind of good, and it's exciting. But
what would you say is like the level of coaching today in America or the States? Obviously it could improve, but you're a licensed coach. You've coached licenses. You've been around the game a long time. You've been around the area a long time, and
I think sometimes in America we go about coaching wrong.
Yeah, how's that?
Because you have to know what you want to see in a game, and then go backwards and recreate it in a practice.
Yeah.
And I think too many people do generic skills type practices that don't benefit kids in a game. And so I think a lot of players, let's say their progression is at this type of an angle, when these types of things do it like this. And I think the reality is game coaching, we struggle with over here.
Do you think, kind of a side note, do you think playing more games would be helpful for kids at a younger age so they can really practice in a game?
I know it's controversial, but when you look back at when America produced players that were on the national team that played at Everton, Dempsey, and Fulham, you look at the youth, they played twice as many games. Since we've cut the number of games in America, how many elite players are we producing in this country that don't leave at 14, 15, 16 to go to Germany or to Spain or wherever?
Yeah.
And so I think that, I'm not going to compare coaching and the level. I just think conceptually we have to have more direction. I think it's very tough, though, because, I'm not knocking U.S. soccer, but in any other country in the world, you couldn't be playing in my league and be like, I'm taking my ball and starting another league.
Yeah.
So
that happens a lot here.
In England, there's no worried of the Super Premier League 2 Academy League.
Well, they almost had it.
But didn't.
No, they didn't.
But my point is, in other countries, there is a definitive pyramid. Definitive pyramid. And there's definitive steps. And I don't know if you can do it in this country based on, laws and lawyers and someone suing. But I think if this country had a little bit more of a pyramid, it would promote better coaches.
Yeah.
You could promote better style of play. You could promote and say, hey, just like the rest of the world, if you've got these facilities, if you've got these level coaches, then you are level 1. And if you're level 1, you have access to this.
I was thinking the other day, it was like, what is the point of club soccer? Because so many players, they'll play, 10 years, spend all that time and money, and then it's over. They'll play maybe in high school, maybe they won't play in college, and it's like there is no step like you're talking about to advancement.
I think if you're talking elite, you're always going to have that because it's just a small percentage. And the small percentage is the kid that shows up to every practice, even when it's granddad's birthday, or, my Uncle Billy's in town from Ireland, or, he's got the sniffles. The kid that shows up to every practice, head down, works hard, they're going to be successful. Whether they're a good soccer player at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they're going to be successful. And I think there's a lack of appreciation for hard work and commitment. I started off with you, and I'm going to say it again. It's very easy to make excuses. Yeah, but. No. You didn't come to practice. I don't need to know why you didn't come.
Yeah, you weren't here.
And I think to go, back to what you said, though, too, if you're going into soccer to have that next step, you might want to think of a different sport because your percentages are lower. So if you're thinking that for your kid, buy them golf clubs at 5 and 6 because that's a sport. Not that it's easy, but it's just them. You can focus on them. You can drop them off at the golf course for 2 hours, 4 hours. You pick them up. You pay for a trainer. Maybe you save money. I don't know. But soccer's bigger than just becoming elite or the next step. And I think the other piece of it, too, is, everything's put on college or non-college, Division 1 of this. It's get a degree. I'm not even going to talk opinions. Just look at numbers. The amount of players that play in college soccer is a tiny percentage. Once you get done playing college soccer, it's a tiny, less than 1% that play another competitive game the rest of their life.
Yeah.
So you're 22, and let's say you play from 7 to club soccer 18, and then you play college, right? That's 15 years of soccer. Now that degree, if you live to 70, affects your life from 22 to 70. If you do the math, what's more important? The degree. Mm-hmm. So if you got an opportunity and soccer can help you go and do that, that's where you use the game to help you with. But the whole kind of pro thing and this and that, it's one of those, everybody sells it, and everybody sells college and play for me and I'll get you this and that. The reality now in America's in a good position that if you're very good, you will get seen. You will get seen, but you'll also get every club locally lying and begging and telling them what they'll do for you to leave where you're at to go there. If you're playing at a higher platform, you're going to get seen. You know what I mean? But I think for, kind of like you said, I'm going to flip it to something different. There's a huge percentage of very good Latino soccer players, right? And they play, and then when they get to 18, if they don't have the grades, they might have won a national championship with a team. They might have helped the whole rest of the team get scholarships by playing on the team.
Yeah.
What happens to those kids?
It's too bad. It happens a lot. They get.
So the reality is there's so many things that we need to identify to do and stop making excuses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we had college ID camp last year with our club, and it was so informative for the parents that good grades are so much more important than your soccer skills to get a scholarship for college. And it's like the athletic scholarship is like the cherry on top, but the rest of it's like the sundae. You have to get good grades.
I don't think people realize that getting good grades is not just about school. It's a habit of doing your job, managing your time, putting the work in. Because if you could do that with school, it's probably happening on the field.
Yeah.
I guarantee there's a correlation.
Well, I think, I feel like good parenting really helps with kids in their schoolwork. And
it does, but I think also, at a younger age, talking to your kids about what school do you want to go to, giving them a dream school to go to. And, you plant those seeds of, hey, you're going to go here or you're going to play there, or even if it's not a specific college, but, it'd be cool to see you play in college. You plant those seeds, and then you talk about hard work. Not how good they are, but how hard they work. I mean, there's a couple of pretty cool books out that show, and there's been studies. The one's called Mindset, and it has little kind of smaller stories in it. And the one they did a study on, like a classroom of younger kids, and they split the class into two. And at the time, before they did this, they asked the grades, and they all pretty much told the truth. One classroom, they told them how great they were and how brilliant they were. And the other one, they praised them for working hard, and, when you work hard, you achieve this. And then they find later, I don't know if it was a year or whatever it was, that the group that they told them how great they were, their grades dropped, and they lied about their grades. And guess what? The ones that did the hard work, they improved, they didn't lie. I think we've got to go back to old school, hard work, humility, respect, commitment. And I think that's been missed in all the glare of social media and Instagram and influencers doing stupid things. And
how do you teach those values to your kids, your teams?
When you start out, you have to have a standard. Do you know what I mean? And there has to be accountability. If someone's doing something wrong, you help them. You don't punish them, but you help them. There's little things when you bring in kids at a young age. As soon as they come in, 2 claps. They all clap together, you got their attention. There's little things you can do across the board. When you set up your activities, your whole practice is set up. Pick up the pink cones, get a drink. Good, you got 30 seconds, come back. You're training them to be either getting a drink, coming back, and you keep them engaged. If you do boring practices where they stand in a line, you can't get mad when they stand in the game. because you train them to do that.
Yeah.
And so if you have 5 kids sitting out because you're doing some rotation thing, when you have 5 kids stand on the field and watch, you can't shout to them. And I think you can do it with your sessions, with your standards, and then, meeting with the players, the parents. And then unfortunately it comes a point where it's selection, isn't it?
What do you mean?
You pick kids that work hard, the good kids, and good parents.
Yeah.
I mean, whether people agree or not, that's the recipe for success.
Yeah.
Because people don't understand. You can't have, and we don't live in a Hallmark movie where you try and save these 1 or 2 bad kids or these crazy parents that, swear or whatever it is. 99% of the time, they make it worse on your team. Or what people don't understand is the 2 players on other teams in your league that want to come and play for you, they don't want to play for you anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a tough finding that fine line between I'm going to help this kid, I'm going to help the kid, I'm going to help the kid. And then you get to a point where, can you help? Have you tried? You have to try, but what are you about?
So what do you do if the kid doesn't respond and he's been on your team for a year or so and you've tried to help him and he just has lost interest and passion for the activity?
I wouldn't say a year, definitively.
Okay.
But I do think at some point, maybe it's a different voice they need to hear. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just something in the environment. I mean, I say to everybody, and I think this is important for parents that watch, for players, for coaches, whatever, they need to be somewhere that they really want to be. And if it's not working, the sooner you go to somewhere that fits for you, the better you'll be. And then the next is, you're never going to find the best coach. It's not going to happen. You need to find the best of the worst, and you need to have a checklist of what are your must-haves, what are your deal breakers, and what are not. And then find that coach and the environment. And then stick to something. Mm-hmm. If you pick somewhere and you feel like the coach does a good job and you see the team improving, have some sort of commitment. Be there for a couple of years. And then figure out the age that you're at. On the boys' side, you're not getting looked at by college coaches until 16 and a half, 17, late junior year, senior year. So why do you need to switch somewhere at 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old, if it's working?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I already told you I mumble.
What's your typical retention time for your teams? You keep them 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, as long as possible? Because I feel like I've had a team for 2 years now, and it's almost like I need to let them have a different experience. I love coaching them, and I think they all enjoy being a part of the team. But it's like I wanna let them have another experience as well.
It's a tough one because I've had more clubs than Tiger Woods. I've probably been at 10 clubs, but I've never really necessarily had that of cycling a team out. I've literally coached, I coached the team for 5 years.
Yeah, so you stick with them.
So I have stuck with them. And I think for me, it's more of the way that I look at it for me personally is if I'm starting to lose the team, they're not paying attention, or if I'm done with what I can give them, then yes. Or, I think you have to have, this is part of the problem in America, right? We don't have someone who coaches 8s, 9s, passes them on to a 10s and 11s, and a 12s, 13s.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
And a 14s, 15s. And when you get them from me, this is your starting point. When you get them at 10, they can pass with the inside of both feet proficiently. Their first touch is good. They pick their head up. They move after they play. If they just do those things, now you're ready to take to the next step. If in a game we play a 2-3-1 and my 2 backs know 1 mark, 1 extra, 1 mark, 1 extra, 1 mark, that's 2 center backs. Now when you get them, you don't have to deal with that. Something as dumb as, hey, when we're playing a goal kick, if the whole team presses and we're not good enough to play out, don't play out. That's not development. That's making a kid fail and feel bad in a game.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem with when do you pass on a team. And so it's a weird one because I've been a part of clubs that there's teams that need a new coach. But then as a director, if you change the coach and you lose half of the team, you don't have a team.
Yeah.
And then tends to be people stay and 1 or 2 leave, which is not good.
I feel like I've seen a lot of like personality with coaches and players wanting to stay or leave with them, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just shows though.
Like if a coach leaves a club, the whole team will leave.
But we can't make excuses. We have to be honest. Tell me a club that in every age group has a top quality coach and you watch him at the beginning and you watch him in a year or two and you can see, okay, as a team they do this defensively, as a team they attack this way, players are good with both feet, they're good at driving the ball, they're moving off the ball, the soccer looks good, they possess but play. Tell me what club does that and checks those boxes. So as a parent, what do? Okay, my son is 2011. I'm going to look in the area, I'm going to see, okay, we've got MLS Next, we've got ECNL RL, we've got ECNL, we've got all these leagues. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to go and check out the environment on those teams. And I'm going to listen to what people say about the club and how they treat players. Because if I'm going at a young age, I want to know I'm going to be here for a while, if I'm going to do this. And then you watch a session. And if you think for you want a big thing is how the coach talks to the players and treats them, then that's number 1 on your checklist. If the next is when you watch the sessions, does it look organized? Even if you don't know soccer, you have these kind of checklists, and then you decide, okay, well, maybe this ECNL RL is a better choice than one of these two because he's young. It's a good facility. They play good. The team might not be as good, but I think it's going to help my son. Or maybe you say, no, my son, that's not the best environment. They need to be in this ultra competitive. But the one thing parents don't think about is, what is the club based on? And when I say that, I mean, is this a recruiting club or is it a developing club? And when I say that, I mean, how many players do they turn over? And if someone comes better than your son next year, well, you're done. And if that's the case, forget soccer, do your math. He's U12, he's got for U18, 6 years. And if they bring 3 or 4 new ones in every year, will you be on the team when it comes to the time that you've put all the money into getting looked at by college and doing all this stuff? Maybe not.
Interesting.
But
I don't know if you think, I've just never thought of it that way. It's like the 6 years up to U18. If parents are thinking that way, or if it's just sort of more word of mouth and reputation of...
Oh, it's lies.
Yeah.
It's lies. Every parent goes to who? Their coach or someone they know. And guess what they do? They tell them like they know like it is. No one tells the parents the truth. And then when you tell the parents the truth, they got 3 people telling them different. And so then they make the choice and then they regret it. If you're going to make a choice, get the facts, lay it out, and decide what things are important to you. It's not hard to do. I go back to, it's just an excuse. You know what I mean? And it's like, hey, okay, let me ask you a question. You're trying to recruit my kid to your club, and so you're telling me everything about how great your club is. Nothing that's bad, because you ain't going to do that. And then either you're talking trash about the team that you're at, or the coach, or maybe little hints of it. So you're going to believe all that? Oh, this is better, that's better. Well, how about, hey, in 2 years, that team might be better than this team, but you ain't coming back because you left that team 2 weeks before the season started because someone offered it to you.
It happened.
So let me ask you a question. Respect, hard work, commitment, humility. Let's go back. These things wouldn't happen 20 years ago. Because I look you in the face and I say, I signed for you. I'm on your team. And guess what that means? That means for that year, I'm on your team. Now, are there times when coaches can be semi-abusive and the kid needs to leave? 100%. But now, sometimes with parents, their kids are a commodity. It's a stock. They're trading. It's high today. Let's get them in there. Oh, no, it's low now. We might have to leave there. What's next best? And I think it's just a long-term thing, isn't it?
They're day trading with their kids.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. They're just not committed long-term.
But I also don't blame parents. because I go back to it's very hard to get the truth and the facts, not opinions. Oh, this coach sucks, that coach sucks, this coach that, but statistics. Hey, this club has recruited 3 teams in the last 3 years, and within a year the coach is not there, and the 5 best players have moved up to a higher team.
Sounds familiar.
No, I'm just saying. Or this club, this coach doesn't really cut too many kids, maybe 1 a year, and has added 1 or 2, and is progressively getting better and better and better. I put my money on that. Do you know what I mean? But it's not, like I say, it's not easy because it sounds really bad, but when it comes to this type of thing, it's like dealing with used car salesmen. You know what I mean? You roll up with a family and you're like, oh, do you like the safety features on this car? This could save your kids' lives. They know they're selling. Do you know what I mean? And they know what you want. So, but, yeah.
Let's switch gears to talking about pro soccer and your love of Liverpool and your experience Champions League final and all those kinds of things.
It's an experience that if you haven't been to Anfield, I mean any game, but Champions League nights or Man United, the atmosphere, it's bigger than you.
Who's Liverpool's rival? Is it Man U? Do they have a rival? There's no other team in Liverpool.
No, but when Liverpool plays Man United, Liverpool plays Everton. Even unfortunately, they're not as good as they used to be.
Terrible.
And then when Liverpool plays City, there's certain games, but the Liverpool Man United game is a big game. And if that game's, and I'm going this December at Anfield, but that game, just listening to You'll Never Walk Alone, it's a different level. And Liverpool, you know, obviously it started with my dad, and then as I got older, I started going to games. And it happened once that a friend of mine, which you know, said to me he had a ticket to the final in Istanbul. And so I said to him, hey, I've got to do this ODP tournament in, well, it was an ODP tournament in Oregon. I couldn't get to Turkey and get back to travel with the team, so I didn't go. And as soon as that game happened and Liverpool came back and won, I told myself, if I ever get a ticket, I'm going.
So you had an opportunity to go to that game.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then I went to the Europa League final in Sevilla, against Sevilla in Switzerland. We lost 2-1. We were bad. Went to the Champions League final in Madrid with my dad, which was cool. I've been to, I went to Milan.
They lost to Madrid to that one too, right?
No, we won. The one that we won against Spurs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I went to Milan to watch AC Milan, Liverpool Champions League. Been to away games. I'm going to hopefully go to Belgium to watch Liverpool play the Europa. Now I'm at a point which is cool to go to stadiums. Just the atmosphere. Barcelona, you got the flag up, but I love that city, and I've been there, watched Barcelona, Madrid. I've been to quite a few countries. Been to Scotland. Christy Ramirez, kind of Southern California kid, was playing for Aberdeen, and I didn't necessarily coach him in ODP, but I know him pretty well, so it was cool to watch him play. I've done quite a few games, Holland, Portugal, Spain, quite a few.
Which one has been your favorite?
I think you can't, I mean, not because I'm a Liverpool fan, but I think if you Google and you look, most pro players or ex-pros will tell you the best environment they played in is Anfield.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is even the away games, to me, Liverpool away games, it's fantastic because everybody stands the whole game and sings nonstop. And I just think it's special.
What about like a specific game? You have one specific game in Europe that you saw?
The Champions League game was final against Spurs. It wasn't that good of a game.
It was like 2018, something like that, 2019?
Yeah, I think it was 2019. But to be able to go with my dad was pretty cool. And then to be there for that, even though Spurs didn't look bad, to be fair, the second half. But it was almost like Spurs fans and Spurs were just happy to be there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think I watched that game and it was just kind of like boring.
Oh, it was.
It just wasn't.
But the best part about that game, besides Liverpool winning, was Imagine Dragons played before. The downside is they had all these fire things, and the heat in the stadium, it was probably like 120 degrees. But that was better than the game. I mean, I've been to Liverpool United at home. One of the weeks was Liverpool United, and then I watched Liverpool Napoli Champions League at Liverpool, and then I've been to watch like Man City Hoffenheim. But at the time, it's bad. You know what I'm saying? Now they do because they're starting to win, and now they won Champions League. But some of the grounds are boring. You know what I mean? Everton was good to watch a couple of games when I was younger. My uncle, who passed away, he was a big Everton fan. I went when Wayne Rooney was 16. That was kind of cool, but there's just nothing like Liverpool.
Have you seen the new Barca Stadium design?
I haven't seen it, but Barca's, it's a cool stadium, but it's more like kind of almost the Coliseum.
They've like extended out the track behind the goals, so they have that huge like 30 yards or 40 yards between them and the stands. And I can't imagine that's like fun for the stands or the fans in the stands.
To be fair, Madrid Stadium is pretty cool because they've actually got heating in the roof. And in the wintertime, I was all bundled up. I get there, dude, I'm taking off jackets. I got a long sleeve shirt on. And it's more of, English stadiums where you're like right there in the action. That's a cool stadium to go to. But Portugal has a couple of cool stadiums too. Yeah, it's the game's pretty good. I think it keeps evolving. But to bring it back to America, I just don't see that we've evolved. I think every country in the world is involved. Like, you can watch pro games in nearly every country, and now there's a higher percentage of teams looking to kind of pass and move, and they're looking for intelligent players that are scanning, have a higher soccer IQ. And I think over here, the MLS is definitely getting better, and obviously bringing Messi and some of these players, just to incorporate him with other players to get to play with that, it's going to make him better.
Well, it's so funny. It's like, Messi's obviously not as physically gifted as the players he might be playing against because, he's not as quick anymore, not as strong anymore, but, like, it's just about passing the ball and being in the right space.
Messi he's like from a different planet on the soccer field.
Yeah.
And I saw it was Zidane years ago when they played LA Galaxy. Before the ball comes to him, it's like the Matrix. He can see this player's coming from my left, this is my right, and there's one just behind me. And as the ball goes, I'm going to let it roll through my legs and beat 3 players. It's like that. There was The Last Samurai. There was a scene in the movie.
I haven't seen it. With Tom Cruise?
Yeah, where he plays out the fight in his head.
Oh, really?
But as you're watching the movie, you don't realize that.
Oh, I see.
And then it comes back, and he's standing there, and exactly what happens plays out, and he planned out. And that's what Messi is. I mean, I think people nowadays, like, oh, Ronaldo's better, Messi's better. It's as simple as this. If you're a stats person and physicality and trophies, if that's what you base it on, Ronaldo's the best in the world. He's won everything in every league he's been in. He's done all these things. If you're a soccer person and just based on the vision, and obviously athletically, Ronaldo, as a physical specimen, he's probably one of the top in the world, regardless of his age.
Yeah, athletically.
Jumping, sprinting, muscle, like the guy he's a machine. But then you look at Messi, and he's what is it, Neo off the Matrix. Man, he's just dicing and slicing, and to be honest though, that's what people pay to see. Mm-hmm. Because not to knock Ronaldo, you can watch the NFL and see speed. You can watch the NBA and see dunking. But the difference, though, too, is Ronaldo is in the right place to create a lot of goals. But I think then you got to say, am I from Argentina? Am I from Portugal? But
well, I'm just thinking like the MLS is just like, it's almost like American football, how fast and aggressive it is. And then Messi comes along, it's just like, twinkle toes out in the field and right space, right time. And it's like, it's just a better way. And hopefully MLS can change to more skill and more IQ based like that.
It is, but I still think the same thing. This is the most interesting thing. There is no promotion and relegation in the MLS.
It'd be so good.
No, right now it's. But give me 1 sec on this. If you're a coach and there's no promotion and relegation, how about you come in and drop a little style of play that's creative and exciting and fans want to watch? People go and watch Brentford, they go watch Brighton, they play some good stuff, mate. That sells tickets. What have they won?
It's because there's no risk to it, is what you're saying.
Well, no, what I'm saying to me is when I go and watch a game, I want to see things I can't do. I want to see, boom, little one-touch combination, ball out wide, bending in, diving header, volley. I want to see strings of passes. I want to see exciting things. Why do people go to the NBA? If the NBA, they didn't dunk and do some of these but nobody would go and watch.
Yeah.
People want to get excited. And I think Messi adds that excitement.
Yeah.
And I just hope that other teams can take that model and add some excitement. But to be fair, too, the fan base has grown substantially.
For soccer.
And in the MLS games, I mean, Seattle Sounders, the Timbers, those fans, mate, they're singing, chanting the whole game. I mean, it's not as creative as in England, to be totally honest. But they're at it for a full game. Yeah. It's a good atmosphere. But if you've only seen that and you've never been to Anfield, you're eating McDonald's, mate, and we're on filet, like at a different level. Yeah. So,
Yeah, the MLS, it's a different game. I wish we had the promotion and the relegation. Do you think it'd work if we did like the USL? And
you
the
don't
USL
have
too,
enough to do it.
Enough bodies.
Quality players, funding.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, let's say Fusion goes into the MLS. What are they going to play? Ventura College?
Well, they go into USL.
No, I know.
The MLS. You can play Galaxy.
No, but what I'm saying to you...
But where would they host the games?
Yeah, where would you play your home games? To generate the income to play the players. To pay the players.
You got to build a stadium.
I mean, they just... I mean, I don't know how true it is, but I'm assuming it is. The San Diego franchise was $500 million.
Really? To build a stadium?
Just for the franchise.
For the whole franchise.
That's just with MLS. And then in the MLS, as you know, the MLS owns the players. The teams don't own the players.
It's a very different model.
That's part of the problem. You know what I mean? You're playing for me. You're the top goal scorer, right? And Brighton offers you $5 million. Why would I sell you from my team when my team doesn't really make the money, and I lose my top goal scorer?
Could the league force a trade? Is that what you're trying to say? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, I'm saying the league owns the players, not the clubs. I mean, there's obviously pros to it, things that help. But at the end of the day, I know one or two specific people that had options in other countries that was substantially more than what they were getting paid, but they weren't allowed to go.
They weren't allowed to go. Interesting. Yikes, that's tough.
That's life.
Yeah, well, I guess there's more to fix than just youth soccer. It's pro soccer and everything.
Yeah, I think I go back to, mate, I just think everybody has an obligation to try to do better, to be better. And I don't think enough people look at it that way.
Do you have any role models growing up that were good, that were sort of carried this message, that inspired you? Like, I've got this book right here. I don't know if you've read it.
Yeah, I have. It's pretty good.
It's one of my favorite books.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's all about the intrinsic values that you've been talking about. And he's a master teacher,
Yeah. Well, and I think he did, I would say I'm nothing like him, but the same type of things happen with me, which is you do things, and then afterwards you realize the effects it had and what happened. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he had all this layout when he was younger and then put it all in place. Mm-hmm. He slowly figured this out and picked a piece from here and a piece from there. I mean, my dad's a big one because of, how he treats people. You know what I mean? We do the camps, and he's the head guy for the state, and he's setting up flags.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's dealing with people in the cafeteria. It's that, and then I hate to sound negative, but I go back to my high school and my high school coach. He trained me to never be like that. To never want to be in a position where I'm making a kid feel uncomfortable, and train me to apologize if I'm wrong. And if I did say something, I will apologize. Even though he didn't do any of that, he was the opposite. He trained me to do that. And then, talking to other people and getting to travel, I met some pretty cool people from all over the world, some decent coaches, met Gareth Southgate, and humility is a huge thing. It doesn't cost anything to be, nice. And hey, I'll share information with you.
What about like good coaches that are you see on the field today? Any of them like that?
I don't want to sound cynical about it, but if I was speaking totally honest, I'm very nitpicky and cynical about things. And I don't say it, but I see it, and then I don't do that. Mm-hmm. So to me, I like to watch pro teams play. I've seen in the youth games some coaches that when I watch their team play, I have a lot of respect, and I want to know what they do. Mm. But then there's a lot
Any
of
locally? Or internationally or nationally?
There's a couple of guys in Southern California, but a lot of it goes in, like, for me, it's kind of like cycles. Like, okay, I had a 10 girls team when they were 8. So I played against all the other 10 teams, 9, 10. I had them for a couple of years. So there was 2 coaches in that age group where I look forward to playing them because it was a good soccer game. Mm-hmm. It wasn't kick the ball to the fast girl up top and score and let's bump and let's... Like, there was soccer in it. And I think we can teach soccer to younger kids. We just don't. And I think we can teach the girls to do a lot more than what we do. We limit it. Girls can do bicycle kicks. Girls can do side volleys. Girls can do back heels and flicks. It's just we don't sprinkle a little bit of that in the sessions. I mean, they could do a ton of stuff, and I think we should do it when they're younger. But to go back to what you said, what I like to see is that when I'm coaching in a game, I can have a look, and this team's organized, right? Defensively, I can see, okay, when they lose the ball, they do this and that. And then if I make adjustments, they make adjustments. But that's such a small percentage, it's crazy. Because I go back to it's game coaching. Game coaching, to me, is a huge part of teaching. You know what I mean? That has to tie in. Because that, to me, is helping players go to the next level.
So you think we're underdeveloped as coaches in that specific part of the game is during the game?
Yeah, I just don't think we've really thought out in our head a plan. An example would be with the youngest kids, 2 backs, 1 mark, 1 extra, 1 mark, 1 extra. So in a game, I'm saying to you, Patrick, who have you got? And you're saying, I've got number 9. Good. Johnny, what are you? I'm extra. The player comes to this side. Johnny, who have you got? I've got him, you drop. At 8, you can teach that. Mm-hmm. 3 midfield against 3 midfield. Game starts. Patrick, who have you got? I'm left forward, left mid. So I match up on their right. Good. Center forward. Who's the 2 center backs? Good. When we lose the ball, what do? Force them one way. They can get these concepts. Those concepts now step into 9v9, 11v11, and in 4 years, you're miles ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And then when we win the ball, it's not about positions, it's about options. Positions limit kids. It's about my style of players. If I receive the ball, I need an option, and potentially a split for an option or a pocket. That's how we play. Now, obviously, positions help because you're a bit higher up the field. But if I tell you, you stay there, and I've got the ball and there's someone right in front of you, you should be moving to open up. Make a diagonal run. So, to me, we can teach young kids that, but it's something I've gone through and pulled in from, this and that. Coaching ODP, that played a big part in it because you take a team, you might have 1 practice, and now you're playing in a regional championship with 18 kids from different clubs.
Yeah, the ODP structure just seems so off.
Well, so what do? Then from that, you take little pieces of what means the most to be successful, right? Now, let's be honest. Some of the younger age groups, the manager or a parent could coach and they'd win. Some of them. But some of the other ones are competitive. So what means the most? What means the most is the culture. Okay, you got them for a weekend. Well, you got them in a van for 6 hours. Then you got them in the hotel room. So you focused on, what are you focused on? It's got to be, we work hard. What's the first thing we do? We will work hard. And that's being drilled in the head. Because we're going to be good. We know we're pretty good because we picked the team. But it has to start with we work hard. Yeah. And then you do little things like, okay, how do we defend corners? So then kind of like I'm saying to you, my concept becomes a formation. 2-4-1. Is it easy to understand? 2, front post, back post, row of 4 on the edge of the 6, a yard out, and 1.
You do zone.
It could be 2-3-2, could be 2-4-2, and then obviously the extras match up on players. But if you don't have time to train for free kicks or defending, is that pretty quick and easy and efficient? Yeah.
I see. So you're doing that, like, instead of a practice, what you're saying, you're doing that in
Well, yeah,
in between
I use that with all my teams.
Okay.
I use that with all my teams just because, to me, it makes sense. Do you know what I'm saying? Instead of being like, Patrick, far post, Jimmy, near post, Bobby, edge of this, like,
yeah, we just
2-4-1.
We should just mark the man.
Yeah, 2-4. But if you mark the man, you're running at your own goal, facing your own goal. And there's space in front of the goal. Where are they going to kick the ball?
Yeah.
In front of the goal. So, I mean, that's something you can think about. And it's the same with setting up walls, You do, within the one session we have, or when we get there, we train for 30 minutes. You say, okay, you 5 set up a wall, go, balls here, go. And then you show them, second player from the end, turn sideways, post, ball. Now the keeper just double checks. But you've already done 90% to where you're only adjusting a bit. Okay, good. Roll the ball over there, you 5, go. 4 in a wall, or 5 in a wall, go. Good, go. Quick, different people. Do it for 5 minutes. Guess what? Now you're organized. I did. A friend of mine was coaching in the Premier League in different levels. I got to travel with his team, and we were at a hotel on the grass in front of the hotel, and he was going through corner kicks. At the time, I think the team was in Division 2 or 1 in England, but we were literally on the front grass of a hotel. And there was no soccer balls. There was trees for goals. And the guy would run up, and they would make the runs. Good. Other side, back up, make your runs. Good. Okay, now we're doing defensive. Good. Line up. Good. And he would just do it for 5 minutes. But if you think about that, because at the highest level, free kicks and corner kicks play a big impact on results. Just 5 minutes once a week. So, to go back, because I'm all over the place, I bring all these things into what I do. And so I think for me it's more of going to different academies, up into cities, Liverpool's for a week, which is an unbelievable experience. Gone to a couple in Portugal, but seeing what they do instead of the constraints sometimes of what coaching education tells us in the whole world, not just US soccer, but all over the world. I want to go and see what produces the elite and bring little pieces to what I do. But I do think there's some great stuff to be taken out of coaching education. But I think we have to adjust it a little bit more to, which has happened. I mean, you're taking a course to where you have more freedom in what you do for the course. So that's improving. And I just hope that now you have that ability that you take that and try different things. You know what I mean? Because there really isn't one way.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, like, I feel like I've had a coaching breakthrough in the last 6 months. I don't know if it's because of the license or it just happened at the same time. But it was good. And, yeah, it's just interesting that it's, right in the middle of the licensing that I'm in. What about, like, any future goals for you? Any hills left to climb?
Future goals.
I know you mentioned a while ago you'd like to coach an ODP team.
U.S. Youth National Team.
U.S. Youth National
That
Team.
used to be the goal, but I don't know if that would ever happen.
Is it more soccer related? Is it more impact related at this point?
No, I think it's a great accomplishment. Do you know what I mean? I mean, when I got to work with the Philippines, you know, when you're flying internationally and you're flying to an event that's a World Cup qualifier and you land in Jordan and your passport control is a little box with FIFA on it and you don't have to wait in lines and, you know, you're traveling with the players, you're training in stadiums. That's just a different level, you know. I mean, obviously you got the game video, like everything bumps up a level, but to be a part of that is such a cool experience. And so I just feel like for me, being in that ODP environment and different environments for as long as I have been, that I think I would do well with a group that you don't have full time and trying to implement something based on the time that you have the players. It's like on the top level, some managers would do great internationally, coach in England or France or Spain or the US, and some are great club managers.
Mm-hmm. That always seemed hard for me to understand. Like, you only get your team for like 2-3 months.
Yeah.
And then you have to play in World Cup or, you know, qualify or something like that. You think some coaches are better suited for that than like a year's worth of time?
But I think it takes a different mindset, doesn't it? Because at a club, you can pick a player and say, I'm going to mold them into this, or I'm going to put together this. Like not just Liverpool, but Jurgen Klopp's done a good job of that.
Oh yeah.
But I think on an international level, now you're picking players with the qualities that tie into what you believe you have, or you just look at the top players, let's say positionally, and say, okay, if I pick these 24, this formation fits better, this style of play fits better. And then, you know, you go into big events, which are one-game events to win. Because the reality is winning the Premier League is harder than winning any of these tournaments. Because it's 6 games.
Longer, yeah.
7 games in a compact time. You can get people pumped up to play in a quarterfinal of a World Cup, but can you get people pumped up to drive and play in Burnley on a winter, you know, day when it's freezing cold and you know, and that could be the win that wins the Premier League over a big amount of time. So I think, to go back to what I said, I think I'd like to think I interact well with kids, and I would love to. That would have been a goal or an opportunity, but you know, the as cheesy and as dumb as it sounds, is my goal is to be happy, is having a better balance of work and anxiety or stress and living as a human being. You know, I don't want to be Joey Hoffman, the soccer coach that coaches here or there or does this. I want to be just Joey, who has a life, who does these things. And soccer can take over your life. It can affect you mentally. It can.
Yeah, and all your weekends are gone.
It can have a big impact. I mean, there's a lot of positives. Mm-hmm. And I don't think sometimes people see how much you sacrifice. And that's what's tough sometimes as a coach. You know, you have a player that, you know, if the wind changes direction, they miss, and you're missing, you know, your mum's birthday, your dad's birthday, you're missing weddings, you're missing funerals for your uncle in England who died because you're coaching these people's kids. And sometimes it gets tough, you know, and life gets tough, and you question why you're doing it. So what's in the future for me? I'd like to be happy. I want to be somewhere where I really enjoy the environment, all the people I work with, and I want to be somewhere that has like a goal or has a plan laid out to achieve that. It's just hard for me to not have that. You know, some people work how. To me, I'm very detail orientated and OCD with things. So when I do something, I take notes and I want to make it better. It doesn't matter whether it's registering players. created a Google Doc. It doesn't matter if, we played last week and our back four, we just kept dropping and, hey, we need to step mids. Like, everything is that. And I think to sum it all up, it comes back to what you said, we talked about with soccer, is details, right? If I want to make a player better, I need to be very specific. So they specifically get better. And so for me, the future is that. And then I'd love to be in a position where I can help in maybe lower income areas with coaching education or doing college talks. I have a pretty decent size PowerPoint with, grades, SAT, letters, like you name it, it's on it. But it's a weird one because I've offered to do it for a lot of people and nobody takes me up on it.
We can do it here.
So, yeah. But then I got a couple of boys in Texas that I'm going to go and visit. They're a part of an organization that are giving back to the community. And I want to find people like that. I want to be more a part of stuff like that, giving back, doing something good. Because sometimes I think, we forget what that means to people that don't have access to that. Mm-hmm. And I think we live in a bubble. And sometimes we just got our heads down and we go to work, we come home and we forget just a little thing can help somebody that would mean the world to them. And it doesn't take anything but a bit of time. And I think that goes to parents with their kids. Hey, I want you to go outside and kick the ball against the wall for 20 minutes or, smiling at someone or saying please or thank you or, hey, your kid works hard and, commits to a team, or coaches. You commit to, I'm just going to stay afterwards and watch a bit of a session. Mm-hmm. Or I'm going to stay at the next game and I'm going to watch and take notes on the other coach and ask him some questions. I think we all can do better at something. I just think sometimes we make excuses. That's the common theme of this. Stop making excuses.
When I was a freshman in high school at a sports camp, it's like 2 weeks before school starts, all the athletes show up for this fall sports. And our freshman shirt, theme was don't make excuses, make it happen. And I've always remembered that stupid little shirt for some reason. Maybe it's just freshman year.
I just think you're personally training yourself.
Mm-hmm. It's discipline.
You're training yourself to never be good enough. Because you'll always have an excuse. And it's always somebody else's fault. And I coach kids like that. And I said in my practice a week or two ago, it kind of stupid, but I made a pass because I was starting the play when the ball went out. I made a pass to a player and it was too far. And he reached and he got his foot to it, but it was too far. And then one of the kids was like, come on, to the kid, blaming the kid. I said, no, that's my bad pass. I hold my hand up on it. I own it. My bad pass. Sorry. I'm like, what are you doing? Don't make excuses. Don't blame somebody else. But that's same thing to me, is taking accountability for those things. There's all these leadership things. There's all these, 5 tasks of this, Own your stuff. Be a leader. You know what I mean? Well, what is a leader? What does it do? If you need to read books, it's going to be a problem. Yeah. You need to implement things. Take pieces of the books. But I think a leader is someone that has people that will follow. Mm-hmm. Now, why is that? In soccer, when you're coaching younger boys, well, if I balance the ball on my head and I, can do cool things and I'm nice to them and I ask them what they had for lunch, I'm the leader. For adults, that don't work. If I'm wearing a U.S. soccer badge, that works.
Yeah.
Which it shouldn't, because if I go back down to the little kids and I wear a U.S. soccer shirt, guess what that means to them? Nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
So the reality is, for us as leaders, how do we tie these things in? Well, I don't allow people to make excuses. And it's okay to make a mistake. Mm-hmm. I tell all my players.
That's different than an excuse.
It's okay to make a mistake. Well, no, because the excuse comes from the mistake.
Yeah.
You make a mistake and you use an excuse. So I say to the players, it's okay to make a mistake, but what? And they say, we fix it.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing, you know what I mean? But I think I think some of those things, and a lot of it's in the books. You know, you probably read some good books. It's a lot of behavioral things. Soccer, the X's and O's nowadays, they mean a lot, but it's the human element. It's the social interaction. It's the speaking to people, treating people, you know, communicating with parents. You know, does your manager send all the emails? Well, that shows that you don't have communication. You've got an agent because you're a rock star, and stay away from the stage.
I like talking to the parents. When I first started coaching, I started coaching, took a break for a couple years, and came back to coaching. And when I first started, I was afraid of the parents, and now I love talking to them. I don't know why. Just got more comfortable with
Yeah.
You know, I see what you're I understand your perspective. We're trying to elevate these kids. You know, I'm not trying to hide from it.
But I think that's because you've got the right motives.
Yeah.
And you use the right train of thought. Too many times coaches, they think they know it all, and they don't take a step back and say, hey, if I knew nothing about soccer and I watch this, what you're doing, does it make sense? So an example, we're doing a shooting training session. There's 30 kids and there's 4 goals on the field, and you're going to 1 goal.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
I mean, I feel like that's ASO coaching. I feel like
no, mate. Your feelings are wrong.
Yeah.
This happens. This
Even
line of 15
level?
people shooting on goal, or you're doing tryouts, and the 2 coaches. There's 2 fields, and the coaches are facing each other talking.
Facing each other talking. Okay.
There's a field here and a field here. Me and you are talking. There's a game going on. It's tryouts. One kid who's trying out scores a great goal. And guess what the parent does? He has a look to see what the coaches are looking at. And then what does he think? These guys ain't even paying attention. You don't need to be good at soccer to know this looks bad.
Yeah.
Have a notepad. Hey, pretend to write notes. Face the field. Do you know what I mean? To me, there's these little things. Or, hey, the way you speak to a kid. You know what I mean? How would you feel? You drove to San Diego and your kid didn't play.
Oof.
If that's your kid and you did the drive, think about it in perspective. So maybe you should have a conversation earlier on in the season to warn them about what might happen, so they're prepared, and you give them a choice.
Yeah.
The problem is, these are such easy, simple things to do, but very few people are held accountable to do that, because the parents are scared. If they go and talk to somebody, my kid doesn't play.
Yeah. I did that a few weeks ago. Yeah. We had a game that was far away, and I texted the parent, hey, I don't know how much playing time your son is going to get. You know, it's your choice if you want to come up this weekend. And they decided to come, but
it's a little thing, isn't it? It's appreciated. But I go back to respect, common decency. When you use these things with people, you're good. But the problem sometimes with soccer coaches is they think they're better than other people, so they don't listen, or they don't want to learn. They think they're a rock star, so you've got to keep the fans away from me. And then I don't do that work. The manager's my assistant or business administrator. So now in their heads, that I'm big time. They got all the gear, no idea. And it's, I'm this big shot. Instead of, hey, calm down, mate. You've done nothing. You're not big time. Speak to people the right way. Talk to people. Talk to the parents. You're no different than them. Just because you got a little bit of power and you're wearing this gear and you have control over my son's playing time, doesn't give you the right to misuse that power. Yeah. But like I say, man, I
just haven't seen it as much as you, that sort of negative style of coaching. Lately, at least.
No, it's out there, but you're a rosy-colored glasses person, mate. Maybe. I think when you've been at different places and you've seen it and you've coached, I think sometimes too when you've coached kids that you no longer coach because you maybe go to a different club, and then you hear what's happening, or you're at a club and you see what's happening, it's a different story. You know what I mean? Because these things happen, and obviously to kind of change the tone, there are MLS academies that are doing very well with their youth players. There are.
Yeah.
I don't want this to be all doom and gloom. I just want it to be better.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? And I like to, I think, as you know, part of the reason why I do the coaching licenses is because I currently coach, and I think I have some good bits of advice or feedback that can help you as a coach to not have to deal with a problem or take the growth of your team from this to this, without you having to do it or make tons of mistakes if possible, or try things. You can still try things, but wouldn't you want a little bit of a fast track? And I just think it's the same. But, it's frustrating sometimes because there's very few people that do ask. You know what I mean? Like, I've had 2 or 3 people
like for feedback?
Yeah, or just help or questions.
Just help, yeah.
I've been doing coaching education for 27 years. And
really? You've been doing that long?
Yeah, 27 years.
Gosh.
I've had 3 people contact me after the fact to talk about soccer. 3 people.
Does this count as one of them?
You count as one of them.
Okay.
Even though I'm here to make you, podcast with you. But my point being, though, is I'd like to think I have some experience in things. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you take advantage of it?
Yeah, I love talking to coaches.
But I think that's what I go back to is some people are kind of set in their ways. I had a discussion with a couple of coaches. I would like you to do these couple of things in your practice. That was a year ago. And it happened 5 or 6 times on the field, in a Zoom, multiple times. And then the coaches come back to me and say, hey, I need more support because I need more feedback from you. So I say, okay, tell me 5 things you've heard me ask you to do in the last year or 2 multiple times. And they list the 5 things and say, good, how many times have you done it? I haven't.
Yeah.
But you want my feedback.
Yeah.
So that's less of the cynical, though, because I don't want this to be all too negative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are a lot of positives. There are some good local players. There are some good local organizations. There are some good people that are trying to help kids and do things the right way. But it's like everything, right? There's percentages. It's like teachers. There's let's say 20%, 25% of teachers do a great job, care about the kids, really enthusiastic about the lesson plans. And then you've got 25% that it's losing that because they've been there a long time and the kids are behaving bad. Mm-hmm. And then you got 50% that are there for a paycheck.
Have you ever seen the movie Stand and Deliver?
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah, I love watching that.
There's good inspirational movies. I think that's part and piece of coaching, but life, right? Is how can you put something to the right person at the right time that empowers them or motivates them? Mm-hmm. Because the same motivational speech or what I say to you isn't going to work for my 2007 boys. Mm-hmm. It's vice versa. It's like that starts to make you a great coach.
And I just it's so tempting to try to get your point across by raising your voice.
Oh, you don't need to.
And it's one of my favorite coaches from high school just spoke so softly and was so effective at it. I was I got to figure out how to do that.
Well, you don't have to figure out. It's control. And a lot of it is, if you look at coaching, not just America, in the rest of the world, you go back 20 years ago, it was ripping into a kid.
Yeah.
It was absolutely demoralizing them in front of a group of their peers so they could learn a lesson. And sometimes they didn't even do anything wrong. You just did it to show that you were in charge. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't hey, I'm talking to you like this. That was loud in your face. So it's a culture change, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's pulling in pieces of teaching and understanding that I'm simply trying to get you to learn this, and this is the process we're going to take. Do I need to raise my voice? Not really. Have I raised my voice? Yes. If it's a multiple times I've asked.
Yeah.
But that's a lot. Instead, it just needs to be as simple as, Patrick, I've asked you 5 times, leave the soccer ball and listen, give me 2 push-ups. Or I'll say, give me 2 push-ups. Can you tell me why? I wasn't listening. Okay. I don't need to shout that at you. But I think it goes back to kind of like we were talking about with parents, right? Think of it on the opposite side, which I told you about my experience in high school. On the opposite side, I know if I've done something wrong, I don't need to be shouted at. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no need to make me feel that small and tiny in front of my team. There's no need. You could just say, hey, Joey, you've been talking and I've asked you to do this twice. Just give me 3 push-ups. Or, hey, go and sit over there for 5 minutes. There's no need. And I think for some reason we have this, belief or culturally that that's what a coach does. Yeah, you better do better. Get on it. And it's funny because I've coached players, and their parents say, like, hey, I know it's not been a good practice unless my kid comes home and he's got sweat on his shirt and he can't breathe, and I can hear you shouting at him.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
What do you say to that?
That's not me. I don't coach that way.
Yeah.
I like to look at it as I'm trying to teach a topic or something specific, so I'm going to ask and give them specifics. If I need to shout and scream in their face, that's not the way I motivate. And if they need that, it's not going to work with me. Simple as that.
Yeah, they're in the wrong place.
But if it's a case of learning and wanting and respect, and, I like to add a bit of humor here and there, but then there is a thin line between, okay, we've messed around, no more. But I think, to me, there's more success in that. And it's funny, though, too, because you flip that question to the parents. Okay, I'm going to come to your job, and I'm going to scream and abuse you around your desk. Hey, are you excited?
I don't think they'd like that.
Yeah, but it's the same.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, I forget who I heard this from, but, you get a group of parents together and you say, raise your hand if you've flown in a plane. Everybody raises their hand. Good. And you paid for the ticket, right? Of course you did. Raise your hand if you've gone and knocked on the cockpit door and said to the pilot, hey, can you pull back a little bit? There's a little bit too much turbulence in here, and, you're rocking my drink. You don't do it. Soccer's the same. You bought the ticket, enjoy the ride. I don't need feedback on how to fly the plane or do this and that. And I think as long as then parents realize the ticket that they bought and the direction that's going in, which is the destination they want to go to, sit back, put your seatbelt on, and enjoy the ride. And if you look at it that way, you're good. But if you look at it as I sat down, you're like, I want sushi on my plane, and this isn't this, and I want the captain to speak more and inform us more. No. This is the ship you're on.
Yeah.
Now, can you give ideas and stuff? Of course. But I think sometimes we've got a huge sense of entitlement. You know what I mean? Just because you pay me, it's almost like I'm your waiter now, and you can just constantly say this or that. And this is not everybody, because there's a lot of good people out there.
Yeah.
But in the last 20 years, this has risen substantially.
You think so? The helicopter parent?
Huge. You know what I mean? Just because you pay me doesn't mean you own me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the same thing, I think there has been a lot of positive changes in soccer, but I do think it's severely watered down. There's far too many clubs. When I left Ventura County, probably 20-something years ago, I want to say there was maybe 4 or 5 clubs.
Ventura County.
Yeah, maybe 4 or 5 clubs. I've come back and there's like 20.
Yeah, they've multiplied.
And everybody's saying what they're going to do for the kids, and I'm going to do this. And then you got groups that are like, oh, hey, as long as we're the best team at U8, U9, U10, I don't care. And then when you look at what they do at 16, 17, 18, and they go nowhere, I don't care, man, I'm the best coach at this age. I put together super teams. Oh, that's great. How do you help the kids go on to something bigger?
Yeah.
And so now everything's watered down. Everybody's doing private lessons. Everybody wants a paycheck. And so now there's more parents that listen to those coaches that keep these players on these teams instead of having potentially a better team and helping those kids go on somewhere. I mean, I think it's great that everybody gets to play soccer, but there is that point, when there's 10 different leagues and there's 50 different clubs and there's too many options. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, when you go to a buffet, you could still go to a restaurant and place an order and have one plate of what you love. You don't need to have one thing off of every piece of the buffet. You know what I mean?
I'm getting hungry. He's talking about sushi and a
That's
buffet.
what I'm saying, mate.
Let's go to lunch, man.
Buffet.
No, well, I appreciate it, Joey. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your words of wisdom, and hopefully we'll get you back on here soon. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. I enjoyed it, and we should all be constantly learning new things, and we should always try and make things into a positive, even when it's very dark. We need to see the light.
Yes. Well, you are the light, Joey. You are the light. Thank you.
Thank you, mate.